The fluorescent lights of Preston Industries' accounting department hummed overhead as Maya Foster squinted at her computer screen. Numbers blurred before her eyes, and she blinked hard, trying to force her vision to clear. 23 years old and already working 60-hour weeks. Maya had been with the company for just 8 months, but her dedication had caught the attention of her supervisors. Not that it mattered much. Her paycheck barely covered rent for her tiny apartment and the mountain of medical bills that arrived with depressing regularity. "Are you okay?" Diane from the neighboring cubicle leaned over, concern etched across her face. "You look pale." "I'm fine," Maya lied, straightening her posture and ignoring the wave of dizziness that threatened to overwhelm her. "Just didn't sleep well." The truth was far more complicated. For 3 weeks, Maya had been skipping lunches to save money. Her younger sister Lily's hospital treatments had drained what little savings she had, and their parents' insurance had reached its limit months ago. Maya's entry-level salary couldn't possibly cover specialized care for Lily's rare kidney condition, but she'd been trying anyway, picking up extra shifts at a coffee shop on weekends and cutting corners wherever possible. She glanced at her watch. 2 more hours until she could leave. Maya reached into her desk drawer for the granola bar she'd been saving, but her hand trembled so badly she knocked over her water bottle, sending it crashing to the floor. "Sorry," she mumbled, standing quickly to clean up the mess. The sudden movement sent the room spinning, and Maya grabbed the edge of her desk to steady herself. Black spots danced across her vision as the office tilted sideways. "Maya!" Diane's voice sounded distant, as though coming from underwater. The last thing Maya remembered was the cold tile against her cheek and voices shouting around her. James Preston was reviewing quarterly projections when his assistant burst into the conference room, interrupting his meeting with the board of directors. "Mr. Preston, there's been an incident on the 14th floor. An employee collapsed. Paramedics are on their way." At 32, James was the youngest CEO in the company's history, having taken over after his father's retirement 3 years ago. Tall, with dark hair that perpetually fell across his forehead, his serious demeanor and business acumen had earned him respect despite initial skepticism about nepotism. "Please excuse me," he said to the board members, who nodded sympathetically. James had developed a reputation for genuine concern about employee welfare, unlike his father's more detached management style. When he reached the accounting department, a small crowd had gathered. The security team had created space around a young woman lying unconscious on the floor, while Karen from HR was kneeling beside her, checking her pulse. "What happened?" James asked, his voice cutting through the murmurs. "She just collapsed, sir," someone answered. "She's been looking unwell for days, but she kept insisting she was fine." James crouched down beside the unconscious woman, noting her ashen complexion and the dark circles under her eyes. She was breathing, but shallowly. "Does anyone know her name? Her emergency contact?" "Maya Foster." Diane stepped forward. "She started in accounting last summer. I don't know about her emergency contact, but her bag is here." She pointed to a worn messenger bag that had fallen beside Maya's desk. "The paramedics need information," Karen said. "We should check for medical details." James hesitated only briefly before nodding. Privacy concerns were important, but the young woman's health took precedence. Karen carefully opened the bag, searching for identification or medical information. Instead, she pulled out a small white stick, looking at it with confusion before her expression changed to understanding. She quickly tried to put it back, but James had already seen it. "Is that—" he began, his voice trailing off as Karen reluctantly handed him the pregnancy test. 2 pink lines were clearly visible in the result window. The paramedics arrived then, pushing through the gathered employees with a stretcher. James stood, still holding the test as they began assessing Maya's condition. One of them asked about medical history, and Karen mentioned that Maya appeared to be pregnant. As they prepared to transport her, Maya's eyes fluttered open. Her gaze wandered confusedly around the room before landing on James. Recognition flickered across her face, followed by horror as she noticed the pregnancy test in his hand. "My bag," she whispered, trying to sit up. "Please lie still, miss," the paramedic instructed gently. "I need to get to work," Maya insisted weakly. "I can't afford to lose this job. Please." James felt something tighten in his chest at the desperation in her voice. "Your job is secure," he assured her. Focus on your health right now. As the paramedics wheeled her away, James found himself still holding the test. He slipped it back into her bag and instructed Karen to have Maya's belongings sent to the hospital. Something about the young woman's situation troubled him deeply. The worn clothes, the fear in her eyes when she thought she might lose her job, and now this pregnancy test. James returned to his office, the board meeting forgotten. He pulled up Maya's employee file on his computer, scanning through her employment history, performance reviews, and personal information. Maya Foster, 23, exceptional performance ratings despite being new to the company. No disciplinary issues. Minimal sick days taken, even though she was entitled to more. Her emergency contact was listed as Lily Foster, a sister perhaps. For reasons he couldn't fully articulate, James felt compelled to understand more about Maya's situation. It had been 2 years since Catherine's death, and he had immersed himself in work to escape the crushing grief. In that time he had become somewhat detached from the human elements of running a company, but seeing Maya collapse, the fear in her eyes, stirred something long dormant within him. James picked up his phone. "Ellen, please clear my schedule for the rest of the day and find out which hospital they've taken Maya Foster to." Word count, 1,026 words. Wait, I need to continue to reach 1,300 to 1,400 words for this block. As James drove to St. Michael's Hospital, memories of his late wife Catherine flooded back. The sterile hospital corridors, the antiseptic smell, the hushed voices of medical staff, it all brought him back to those final devastating months. Catherine had been diagnosed with an aggressive form of leukemia just 1 year into their marriage. The disease had taken her quickly, leaving James with a hollowness that no amount of business success could fill. He hadn't set foot in a hospital since her funeral. Yet here he was, parking his Tesla in the visitor's lot, drawn by concern for an employee he barely knew. James took a deep breath before entering the building, pushing past the wave of anxiety that threatened to overwhelm him. At the reception desk, he identified himself and asked about Maya Foster. "Are you family?" the receptionist asked. "No, I'm her employer. She collapsed at work." "I'm sorry, sir, but we can only share information with family members." James was about to argue when a young doctor approached. "Mr. Preston, I'm Dr. Sharma. We spoke on the phone earlier about Ms. Foster." James had almost forgotten that his assistant had called ahead. Being the CEO of one of the city's largest employers occasionally had its advantages. "How is she?" James asked. "Stable, Doctor," Sharma replied. "Miss Foster is suffering from dehydration and malnutrition. Has she mentioned any financial difficulties?" James shook his head. "I don't know her personally. She works in our accounting department." "I see. Well, based on what we're seeing and what she's told us, Miss Foster has been skipping meals and working excessive hours. She mentioned something about medical bills for her sister." James frowned. "Her sister?" "Yes, apparently her younger sister has a serious kidney condition. Miss Foster has been trying to help cover the costs." Dr. Sharma hesitated. "She was quite distressed about missing work. She mentioned several times that she needs her job." "Her job isn't in jeopardy," James assured him. "Can I see her?" "Briefly. She needs rest." Dr. Sharma led him through the corridors to a small room where Maya lay in a hospital bed, an IV drip attached to her arm. She appeared to be sleeping. James stood awkwardly at the doorway, suddenly uncertain why he had come. What did he hope to accomplish? He wasn't family, he was her boss, someone she probably only knew from company-wide emails and the occasional photograph in the annual report. As he turned to leave, Maya's eyes opened. "Mr. Preston." Her voice was small, confused. She tried to sit up, wincing slightly. "Please don't get up," he said quickly. "I just wanted to check that you're all right." Maya's face flushed with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry about what happened. I've never fainted at work before. I promise it won't happen again." "That's not—" James stepped closer to the bed. "You don't need to apologize. I'm concerned about you." Maya looked down at her hands, twisting the thin hospital blanket between her fingers. "Did they tell you why I collapsed?" "The doctor mentioned dehydration and malnutrition," James replied carefully, not wanting to mention the pregnancy test unless she brought it up first. A tear slipped down Maya's cheek. "I can't afford to lose this job, Mr. Preston. My sister, she needs specialized treatments, and our parents' insurance won't cover anymore. I'm all she has." The raw vulnerability in her voice struck James deeply. For the first time in 2 years, he felt something break through the carefully constructed walls around his heart, genuine concern for someone else's pain. "Maya," he said gently, "your job is secure, but your health matters too. You can't help your sister if you're hospitalized yourself." She nodded, wiping away the tear. "Thank you. I'll be back at work tomorrow." "Absolutely not," James said firmly. "You need rest. Take the week off, with pay. We can discuss your situation when you're feeling better." Before Maya could respond, a nurse entered to check her vitals. James took the opportunity to step out, his mind racing with questions about this young woman whose determination reminded him so much of Catherine. 3 days after her collapse, Maya sat nervously in the reception area outside James Preston's office. She had spent 2 nights in the hospital before being discharged with strict instructions to rest and improve her nutrition. The hospital bill had been mysteriously taken care of, according to the billing department, though no one would tell her how or by whom. Now, dressed in her best blouse and slacks, which still looked shabby compared to the sleek corporate atmosphere of the executive floor, Maya fidgeted with the strap of her purse. She had never been to the top floor before, where sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, offering panoramic views of the city. "Mr. Preston will see you now," his assistant announced, gesturing toward the imposing double doors. Maya's heart pounded as she entered the spacious office. James Preston stood by the window, silhouetted against the morning light. He turned as she entered, and Maya was struck again by how young he was for a CEO. The business magazines often mentioned it, how he had stepped into his father's role earlier than expected and surpassed all expectations despite initial skepticism. "Maya, please, sit down." His voice was warmer than she expected, lacking the intimidating edge she had anticipated. "How are you feeling?" "Much better, thank you," she replied, perching on the edge of a leather chair that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "And thank you for the time off. I'm ready to return to work immediately." James studied her for a moment before sitting across from her. "I've been looking into your situation, Maya." Her stomach tightened. "Sir? You've been with Preston Industries for 8 months, correct? Your performance reviews are exceptional. You work overtime consistently, yet you've never submitted for overtime pay." Maya swallowed hard. "I'm grateful for the opportunity to work here, Mr. Preston. That doesn't answer my question." His eyes, deep brown and surprisingly kind, met hers. "The doctor mentioned you've been skipping meals, and there was mention of your sister's medical expenses." Heat rushed to Maya's face. She hadn't realized the doctor had shared that information with him. "Lily has a rare kidney condition. The treatments are expensive, but I'm managing. By starving yourself." There was no judgment in his tone, only concern. "I make choices based on priorities," Maya said firmly. "Lily's health comes first." James nodded slowly, then opened a folder on his desk. "You've been working weekends at Brewster's coffee shop as well. 60 hours here, another 20 there. When exactly do you rest?" Maya's embarrassment turned to indignation. "You've been investigating me." "I've been trying to understand," he corrected gently. "It's not normal for a healthy 23-year-old to collapse from malnutrition in a developed country, working for a Fortune 500 company." Maya stood abruptly, her voice shaking. "I don't need your pity, Mr. Preston. If you're firing me, just say it directly." James looked genuinely startled. "Firing you? Maya, I called you here to offer you a promotion." The words hung in the air between them. Maya slowly sank back into her chair, confusion replacing anger. "A promotion? To my executive assistant. Ellen is retiring next month, and I need someone detail-oriented, hard-working, and discreet." He closed the folder. "The position pays twice your current salary, with comprehensive benefits that would cover dependents, including siblings." Maya's mind raced. Benefits that would cover Lily. A doubled salary. It seemed too good to be true. "Why?" she asked bluntly. "Why me? We've never even spoken before I collapsed." Something flickered across James's face, a shadow of emotion quickly controlled. "Your work speaks for itself. Your determination is remarkable." He hesitated. "I recognize dedication when I see it." Maya wasn't convinced. "Is this because of the pregnancy test you found?" James tensed visibly. "That's not—" "Because I'm not pregnant," Maya interrupted, her cheeks burning. "That test wasn't mine. It was my roommate's. She was too scared to look at the results herself, so I was keeping it for her." The lie came easily. practiced during sleepless nights in the hospital. I'm sorry if that created an awkward situation. Relief washed over James's face, followed immediately by embarrassment at his transparent reaction. Your personal life is your own business, Maya. The offer stands regardless. An uncomfortable silence stretched between them. Maya studied him, trying to discern his true motives. There had to be something more to this extraordinary offer. What about your current assistant? She asked. Ellen has been trying to retire for 2 years. I've been postponing the inevitable. His lips curved into a small smile. She'll stay on for a month to train you if you accept. Maya's mind raced with calculations. With that salary, Lily's treatments would be covered. She could quit the coffee shop, maybe even move to a safer apartment. It was the solution to problems that had seemed insurmountable just days ago, yet suspicion lingered. I have no experience as an executive assistant. You have organization, intelligence, and perseverance, James countered. The rest can be learned. Maya took a deep breath. I would need to adjust my schedule sometimes for my sister's appointments. We can accommodate that. And I won't. She searched for the right words. I won't be expected to perform duties outside the professional scope of the position. James's expression darkened. I'm offering you this position based solely on your professional qualifications, Ms. Foster. Preston Industries has strict policies against harassment or inappropriate relationships between management and staff, which I fully endorse. Maya flushed again, regretting the implication. I'm sorry. It seems too good to be true. His expression softened. Sometimes good things do happen, Maya. A shadow crossed his face, though not often enough. Something in his tone made Maya wonder about the man behind the CEO title. The business press often mentioned his tragic past, how he had lost his wife to cancer shortly after taking the helm of Preston Industries. They called him brilliant, but remote, fully dedicated to the company, but rarely seen in social settings. I accept the position, Maya said finally. Thank you for the opportunity. James nodded, visibly pleased. Ellen will contact you about training. And Maya, he paused. Take the rest of the week. Start fresh on Monday. As Maya left the office, her mind whirled with the unexpected turn of events. The promotion would solve her financial problems, but she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to James Preston's interest in her situation than professional recognition. Back in her tiny apartment that evening, Maya sat beside her sister's bed, watching the 17-year-old sleep. Lily's once robust frame had grown frail during the past year of treatments, her complexion pallid against the pillowcase. Things are going to get better, Maya whispered, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's forehead. I promise. Lily stirred, her eyes fluttering open. You're home early, she murmured sleepily. Maya smiled. I got a promotion today. That's amazing, Lily said, struggling to sit up. Tell me everything. As Maya recounted the meeting with James Preston, omitting her collapse and hospital stay, which she'd managed to hide from Lily, she felt a surge of hope for the first time in months. Yet beneath that hope lurked uneasiness. The pregnancy test tucked deep in her dresser drawer weighed on her conscience. She had lied to James Preston's face about it. The test was indeed hers, and it was indeed positive. In the chaos of Lily's illness and financial struggles, Maya had made a terrible mistake with an ex-boyfriend, who had promptly disappeared when things got complicated. Now she faced an impossible situation. A new, demanding job, a sick sister depending on her, and a baby on the way that no one could know about, especially not her new boss. 1 month into her new position as James Preston's executive assistant, Maya had settled into a rhythm that, while demanding, was infinitely more manageable than her previous situation. The increased salary had allowed her to move Lily to a better specialist, pay off the most pressing medical bills, and even put a small amount into savings each week. For the first time in years, Maya could breathe without the crushing weight of financial desperation. Working directly with James had revealed dimensions to him that the company gossip hadn't captured. Yes, he was intensely focused and occasionally distant, but he was also surprisingly thoughtful. He remembered details about Lily's treatments and adjusted Maya's schedule without complaint. When she needed to attend medical appointments, he worked longer hours than anyone else, often remaining in his office long after she'd left for the day. What the gossip had gotten right, however, was his reluctance to engage socially. James declined most non-essential events, avoided the executive dining room, and maintained a polite but definite distance from colleagues. The business press called him the widow CEO, focusing on how his grief had apparently channeled into business acumen. The company had thrived under his leadership, but James himself remained an enigma to most. "You've got another dinner invitation," Maya said, placing the embossed card on his desk. "The Children's Hospital Foundation Gala. It's marked urgent." James glanced at it and sighed. "Send the usual response. Preston Industries will make a donation, but I won't attend." Maya hesitated. "Actually, sir, you're being honored. They're presenting you with their annual philanthropy award." She watched his expression carefully. It might be difficult to decline this one. A flicker of irritation crossed James's face. "Find a representative to accept on my behalf. It specifically states the award is for your personal contributions to the Pediatric Oncology Wing." Maya's voice softened. "The wing named after Catherine." James went still, his fingers tightening almost imperceptibly on his pen. After Catherine's death, he had donated millions to establish a state-of-the-art treatment center in her name, though he never visited it or spoke publicly about the contribution. "I'll consider it," he said finally, his tone making it clear the discussion was over. Maya nodded and returned to her desk, one hand unconsciously moving to her abdomen. At 14 weeks, her pregnancy remained invisible beneath careful clothing choices, but she knew that wouldn't last much longer. The morning sickness had subsided, thankfully, but other symptoms were becoming harder to hide. She'd have to tell James soon, a conversation she dreaded. That evening, as Maya was preparing to leave, James emerged from his office looking unusually hesitant. "Maya, do you have a moment?" "Of course." She sat back down, trying to ignore the flutter of anxiety. Had he somehow discovered her secret? James remained standing, uncharacteristically fidgeting with a pen. "Regarding the Children's Hospital Gala, I've decided to attend." Maya blinked in surprise. "That's wonderful. I'll confirm right away." "There's more." He set the pen down deliberately. "I'd like you to accompany me." The request hung in the air between them. Maya stared at him, trying to process the implications. "Not as a date," James clarified quickly, looking uncomfortable. "In a professional capacity. These events are difficult for me. Having you there to manage interactions would be helpful." "Oh." Maya nodded, relief mingling with something like disappointment. "Of course. I'd be happy to assist. Thank you." James hesitated again. "The company will cover appropriate attire. Speak with Patricia in finance about the arrangements." After he returned to his office, Maya sat motionless, her thoughts turbulent. She told herself this was purely professional. She was his assistant, and this was part of her job. Yet she couldn't deny the complicated emotions James Preston stirred in her. His kindness, his dedication to his company, the grief he carried so privately. All of it touched something in Maya that she hadn't expected. But she was pregnant with another man's child, a fact that would soon become impossible to hide. Whatever fragile connection might be forming between them would surely be severed when the truth came out. 2 weeks later, Maya stood before the mirror in her bedroom, hardly recognizing herself in the elegant navy gown Patricia had helped her select. The empire waist skillfully concealed her small bump, while the color brought out the blue in her eyes. For once, she looked like she belonged in James Preston's world. "You look like a princess," Lily said from the doorway, her eyes wide with admiration. The teenager had been doing better on her new treatment regimen, showing more energy than she had in months. Maya smiled, pushing aside her nervousness. "It's just for work, Lil. Mr. Preston needs help navigating a charity event." Lily smirked knowingly. "Sure, that's why you've redone your makeup 3 times. "Hush," Maya laughed, throwing a pillow at her sister. "Mrs. Abernathy will be here soon to stay with you. There's dinner in the fridge and your medications are laid out on the counter with detailed instructions, I know." Lily rolled her eyes. "I'm 17, not 7. Go enjoy your non-date with your handsome boss." James arrived precisely at 7, his chauffeur holding the door of a sleek black car. He wore a tuxedo that emphasized his tall frame, looking every inch the successful CEO. When Maya emerged from her apartment building, a flash of something appreciation, perhaps, crossed his face before his professional demeanor returned. "You look lovely," he said simply as she slid into the car beside him. "Thank you." Maya smoothed her dress nervously. I've prepared notes on the key attendees and potential conversation topics. James smiled slightly, always prepared. I appreciate that about you. The drive to the hotel was filled with comfortable discussion about the event, but Maya couldn't help noticing how James's expression tightened as they approached. By the time they arrived, the easy rapport had vanished, replaced by a tension that radiated from him. We don't have to stay long, Maya said gently as they walked toward the entrance. Just the award presentation and enough networking to be polite. James nodded gratefully. That's the plan. The ballroom was a glittering spectacle of wealth and influence. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables adorned with elaborate floral arrangements, while the city's elite mingled in designer evening wear. Maya felt a momentary panic. This world was utterly foreign to her, but steadied herself with the reminder that she was here in a professional capacity. She fell easily into her role, facilitating introductions and smoothing awkward moments when James grew too quiet or abrupt. To her surprise, he remained close by her side throughout the evening, his hand occasionally touching her elbow to guide her through the crowd. The simple contact shouldn't have affected her, but each time it sent warmth spreading through her body. During dinner, Maya found herself seated beside James at the head table, uncomfortably aware of curious glances from other guests. The whispers were subtle but unmistakable. Who was this unknown woman accompanying the reclusive widower CEO? Ignore them, James murmured, noticing her discomfort. They'll find something else to gossip about soon enough. The award presentation came after the main course. A distinguished doctor took the stage, speaking eloquently about the Catherine Preston Pediatric Oncology Wing and the thousands of children who had received treatment there. Photos appeared on large screens around the room. Smiling children, state-of-the-art equipment, and finally, a beautiful dark-haired woman with a radiant smile. Catherine. Maya glanced at James and was struck by the raw pain in his expression. His jaw was tight, his knuckles white around his water glass. Without thinking, she placed her hand gently over his, beneath the table. To her surprise, he turned his palm upward, gripping her fingers tightly. When James was called to the stage, he released her hand reluctantly and rose to accept the award. The audience fell silent as he approached the microphone, anticipation thick in the air. James Preston almost never gave speeches about personal matters. "Thank you for this recognition," he began, his voice steady despite the emotion Maya had witnessed moments before. "The Catherine Preston Wing represents what my late wife valued most, hope for children facing impossible odds." He paused, scanning the audience before his gaze settled on Maya. Something in his expression shifted. 2 years ago, I lost the person who taught me the meaning of compassion. Since then, I focused on honoring her memory through financial contributions, believing that was enough. His voice grew stronger, more certain. Recently, I've been reminded that true compassion requires personal engagement, not just monetary support. I've been challenged to do better, to be better by someone who demonstrates extraordinary strength in the face of her own challenges. Maya felt heat rise to her cheeks as several heads turned toward her. Going forward, the Preston Foundation will be expanding its support for families struggling with childhood medical conditions, including comprehensive assistance programs for caregivers. James's gaze remained on Maya. Because sometimes the person who needs support most is the one who never asks for it. The applause was thunderous as James returned to the table. Maya stared at him, speechless at the public acknowledgement and the new initiative that so clearly referenced her situation with Lily. "Was that okay?" he asked quietly, a rare uncertainty in his voice. "It was perfect," she whispered, blinking back unexpected tears. As the evening wound down, they stepped outside to wait for the car. The night air was cool, stars visible despite the city lights. James seemed lighter somehow, as though the speech had released something long constrained. "Thank you for coming tonight," he said. "It was less difficult than I expected." Maya smiled. "I'm glad. The new initiative sounds wonderful. It's something Catherine would have wanted." He turned to face her directly. "Maya, there's something I've been wanting to—" His words were cut short as Maya suddenly gasped, her hand flying to her abdomen. "What's wrong?" Alarm flashed across James's face. Maya couldn't speak. The baby had kicked, a definite, unmistakable movement she'd felt for the first time. Joy and panic collided within her, as she realized the moment of truth had arrived sooner than expected. "Maya." James stepped closer, concern deepening. "I'm pregnant," she blurted out, the secret she'd carried for months finally escaping. 16 weeks. I felt the baby move just now." James went utterly still, his expression unreadable in the dim light. The silence stretched between them, heavy with implications. "It's not what you think," Maya continued desperately. "It happened before I started working for you, with someone who's no longer in the picture. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you, but I was afraid I'd lose everything I've worked for." Still, James said nothing, and Maya felt her world crumbling around her. She had ruined everything: the job, the benefits for Lily, the unexpected connection with James, all of it collapsing in this one moment of truth. "I understand if you need to replace me," she said finally, her voice small. "I just ask for enough time to find another position, for Lily's sake." James took a step back, his face now composed into the remote expression she recognized from their first meetings. "The car is here," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "We should go." The drive back to Maya's apartment was conducted in silence so complete it seemed to have physical weight. When they arrived, James escorted her to the door as courtesy demanded, but the warmth of earlier had vanished entirely. "Thank you for your assistance tonight," he said formally. "We'll discuss the situation on Monday." As Maya watched the car drive away, tears finally spilled down her cheeks. In one evening, she had glimpsed a future of possibility, only to have it snatched away by the reality of her situation. She had no idea that James was sitting in the back of his car, staring at his phone where a calendar app displayed a date he had never forgotten. The day Catherine had told him she was pregnant, just weeks before her cancer diagnosis. The baby they had lost alongside everything else. Monday morning arrived with a sense of dread. Maya had spent the weekend alternating between anxiety and resignation, preparing Lily for the possibility that their circumstances might change again. She'd updated her resume and reached out to a few contacts, though explaining her pregnancy to potential employers would be another hurdle entirely. When she arrived at the office, James's door was closed, unusual for early morning. His calendar showed no appointments, yet the light beneath his door indicated he was inside. Maya settled at her desk, heart pounding as she waited for whatever would come next. At precisely 9 o'clock, his door opened. "Maya," James said, his expression giving nothing away. "Could you join me, please?" She followed him inside, noting the dark circles under his eyes that suggested he'd slept no better than she had. Various documents were spread across his desk, not the termination papers she'd feared, but what appeared to be information about company policies. "Please, sit," James gestured to the chair across from him. Maya perched on the edge, bracing herself. "Mr. Preston, before you say anything, I want to apologize for not being forthcoming about my pregnancy. It was unprofessional, and I understand if—" "Stop." James held up a hand. "I'm not the one owed an apology, Maya. If anything, I should apologize to you." She blinked in confusion. "Sir, my reaction on Friday was—" He hesitated, searching for the right word. "Inappropriate. Your pregnancy is your personal business, and my response should have been supportive, not whatever that was." "Oh," Maya wasn't sure how to respond. James rubbed his temples. "The truth is, your announcement caught me off guard for reasons that have nothing to do with you." He paused, seeming to debate with himself before continuing. Catherine was pregnant when she was diagnosed with cancer. The revelation hung in the air between them. Maya felt her chest tighten with understanding. "I'm so sorry. We lost the baby at 4 months, shortly after starting treatment." His voice was controlled, but pain radiated from every word. "Friday was difficult. It brought back memories I've spent 2 years trying to manage." "I understand," Maya said softly. "And I don't expect any special accommodation. I can work until—" "That's actually what I wanted to discuss," James interrupted, gesturing to the documents on his desk. "I've been reviewing our parental leave policies. They're woefully inadequate." Maya stared at him, caught off guard by this unexpected direction. "As of this morning, Preston Industries is implementing a new parental leave program, 6 months fully paid, with an option for 6 additional months at partial salary for all employees. The board has given preliminary approval, pending final legal review. That's incredible, Maya said, genuinely surprised. But you didn't have to do that because of my situation. I didn't, James replied firmly. I did it because it's the right thing to do and because Catherine would have insisted on it. His expression softened slightly. Your situation simply brought the issue to my attention. Relief washed over Maya, followed quickly by confusion. So, I'm not being fired. The hint of a smile touched James's lips. Quite the opposite. I'd like to offer you a new position. Another promotion? Maya couldn't keep the skepticism from her voice. No. A lateral move to head a new initiative. James slid a folder across the desk. The Preston Family Support Program, providing comprehensive assistance to families dealing with childhood medical conditions. The idea I mentioned in my speech. I'd like you to develop and run it. Maya opened the folder with trembling hands, scanning the preliminary outline. The program was exactly what families like hers needed. Not just medical coverage, but practical support. Transportation to appointments, childcare during treatments, mental health services, even career development for caregivers. This is... She struggled to find words. This would change lives. That's the intention. James's voice had softened. The position comes with flexible hours, the ability to work remotely when needed, and a salary increase to reflect the additional responsibilities. Maya looked up from the proposal, overwhelmed. Why me? Because you understand the challenges these families face in a way I never could. James met her gaze directly. You've lived it, Maya. Your experience is invaluable. The genuine respect in his voice brought tears to Maya's eyes. For so long she had seen her struggles with Lily as a burden to be carried alone, something to hide or minimize. Now those same struggles were being recognized as a unique qualification. I don't know what to say, she admitted. Say yes, James suggested, a real smile finally emerging. The program needs you and... He hesitated. I believe I do too. The words hung between them, charged with meaning beyond the professional context. Maya felt her pulse quicken. There's something else we need to discuss, James continued, his tone growing more serious. Working closely together as we have been, while navigating these personal circumstances, it complicates things. Maya nodded, tension returning. Here it was, the acknowledgement of the uncomfortable dynamics. I've developed feelings for you, Maya, James said quietly. Feelings that go beyond professional appreciation. The admission stunned her into silence. I'm not asking for anything, he continued hastily. In fact, I'm specifically not asking. You're in a vulnerable position, pregnant, responsible for your sister, financially dependent on this job. Any romantic overture from me would be inappropriate under these circumstances. I see, Maya said carefully, her heart racing, which is why I've arranged for you to report directly to the board for this new position, not to me. James's expression was determined. Your career and security will never depend on your personal relationship with me, whatever form that might take. Maya absorbed his words, recognizing the considerable thought behind them. That's very considerate. It's necessary, James corrected. I won't put you in a position where you feel pressured to reciprocate feelings out of concern for your job or Lily's care. The thoughtfulness of his approach, protecting her autonomy, even at the cost of his own desires, moved Maya deeply. It was so different from her experience with the baby's father, who had disappeared at the first sign of responsibility. What if, she said slowly, I've developed feelings for you too. James went very still. Have you? Maya nodded, unable to deny the truth any longer. But my situation is complicated. I'm pregnant with another man's child. Lily depends on me entirely. I come with more baggage than anyone should have to accept. Maya, James said gently, after losing Catherine, I never expected to feel anything for anyone again. The fact that I feel something for you isn't a burden. It's a gift I never thought possible. He paused. As for your baby, children have never been baggage to me. They're a blessing. Tears spilled down Maya's cheeks at his words. What are you suggesting exactly? Nothing immediate, James assured her. You need time to settle into your new position, prepare for your baby, and focus on Lily's health. I need time to... He hesitated. To make peace with moving forward. And then, perhaps we see where this might lead, without the complications of a professional power imbalance. His eyes held hers. At your pace, always. Maya wiped away her tears, a tentative hope blooming within her. I'd like that. 6 months later, Maya stood in the newly opened office of the Preston Family Support Program, surveying the space with pride. Photographs lined the walls, families helped by the program in its first months of operation. The initiative had already assisted dozens of families, including her own. Lily's health had improved dramatically with access to better treatments. She was now talking about college applications, a future that had seemed impossible a year ago. Maya's apartment had been exchanged for a comfortable 3-bedroom condo, purchased with her increased salary and a first-time homebuyer program James had added to the company benefits. Her baby daughter, Eliza Catherine Foster, slept peacefully in the bassinet beside her desk, another innovation James had insisted on when designing the family-friendly workspace. At 2 months old, Eliza had her mother's blue eyes and a full head of dark hair that reminded Maya of James every time she looked at her. A knock at the door pulled Maya from her thoughts. James stood in the doorway, more relaxed than she'd ever seen him in the early days of their acquaintance. The grief still shadowed him sometimes, but less frequently now. "Ready for the board presentation?" he asked, smiling as he approached the bassinet to peek at the sleeping baby. "As ready as I'll ever be," Maya replied. The quarterly report on the program's impact had exceeded even their optimistic projections. James gently touched Eliza's tiny hand. "She's growing so fast." "Too fast," Maya agreed, watching him with the baby. James had been present throughout her later pregnancy, attending doctor's appointments, helping prepare the nursery, and learning about infant care alongside her. He had been in the waiting room during Eliza's birth and was the first visitor afterward, bringing a small stuffed bear that now resided in the bassinet. Their relationship had evolved slowly, respectful of the boundaries they'd established. Dinners, quiet walks, conversations about their pasts and possible futures. James had been patient, never pushing for more than Maya was ready to give. In turn, she had supported him through the difficult anniversaries of Catherine's illness and death, understanding when he needed space to honor those memories. "Dinner tonight?" James asked, straightening up. "That new Italian place you mentioned?" "Actually," Maya said, gathering her courage, "I was thinking we could have dinner at my place. Lily's staying at a friend's house for a study group." James raised an eyebrow. "Just us and Eliza?" "Just us," Maya clarified. "Mrs. Abernathy offered to watch her for a few hours." She hesitated, then added, "It's time we had a real date, don't you think, without colleagues or family or board members around?" The smile that spread across James's face was answer enough. He took her hand, squeezing it gently. "I'd like that very much." That evening, as they shared a home-cooked meal in Maya's dining room, the conversation flowed easily between them. They had grown comfortable with each other over the months, building a foundation of trust and mutual respect that made this transition feel natural. "I have something for you," James said as they moved to the living room after dinner. He pulled a small box from his pocket. "It's not what you might think," he added quickly, seeing her expression. "Not yet, anyway. That will come when you're ready." Maya opened the box to find a delicate silver key. "It's to my house," James explained. "The house I shared with Catherine." He took a deep breath. "I've kept it exactly as it was when she died. I couldn't bear to change anything, but I've realized that's not moving forward. It's being trapped in a moment of grief." Maya listened, understanding the significance of what he was sharing. "I'm ready to make changes, to create a new home that honors Catherine's memory while making space for new possibilities." His eyes met hers. "I'd like you to help me. No pressure to move in or make any decisions about our future yet. Just help me take this step." Maya closed her fingers around the key, recognizing it for what it was, not just access to a physical space, but to the heart of a man who had thought himself closed off forever. "I'd be honored," she said softly. Later, as they stood on her doorstep saying goodnight, James cupped her face gently in his hands. "I never expected you, Maya Foster. You and Eliza and Lily. You've given me back something I thought was gone forever." "What's that?" she asked. "Hope," he said simply, and lowered his lips to hers. As they kissed beneath the stars, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought them here, from her collapse on the office floor to this moment of new beginnings. Sometimes the most unexpected circumstances led to the greatest blessings. And sometimes what appeared to be an ending was merely the first step toward a different, beautiful future.